This is the story of how a terrible iOS app landed me my first internship as a freshman in college. The story starts all the way back in the summer before my sophomore year of high school, which is when I first got into coding. But what I wanted to be doing, and what I had wanted to do since I was in middle school, was to learn how to build iPhone apps. Part of me just thought this was really cool, but you also don't have a lot of ways to make money as a 15-year-old, and the thought of selling an app 99 cents at a time to the thousands and thousands of people who are definitely going to download it also seemed pretty compelling. I spent a year learning C++ and just the fundamentals of coding before jumping into the world of Objective-C. I created this project back in June of 2015, which at this point is almost exactly 9 years ago. The original premise of the app, believe it or not, was even more basic than what I ended up releasing, complete with a name that was definitely not available, but also showed just how large of aspirations I had for the app. Basically, I spent a lot of time growing up doing math worksheets, but instead of needing to wait for someone to print it out for you and then waiting for a parent to grade it for you, you could do an infinite number of problems where you would get instant feedback, and there are also differing levels of difficulty that you could work through as you got better. To be fair, there's actually nothing wrong with this premise. I remember at the time there were a number of other apps that were trying to solve the same problem, with the main difference being that I had no idea what I was doing. Everyone has to write their first app at some point, and I still maintain that one of the best ways to learn is by getting hands-on experience instead of just reading books or watching tutorials. But there's also a balance where investing more time into learning or getting help from others can make your life a heck of a lot easier and make your app a lot better, and that is the exact opposite of what I did. In fact, I remember being strongly opposed to this. I wanted this to be 100% my app, with no one else's input. In hindsight, I'm shocked that I was actually able to make something that worked, given all of that. I went from knowing absolutely nothing about iOS development to shipping something that was stable within a couple of months, but the app itself was not pretty and the code was even less pretty. If I look back at the apps that I built in my first couple of years, UI and UX was definitely not a strong suit. So much of this was because I wanted to build everything from scratch. Instead of looking at what other apps were doing that worked well, I just went with what seemed good to me at the time, which some things turned out okay, while other things really just made absolutely no sense or were just downright hard to use. The code, on the other hand, was a complete rat's nest. It is probably the worst single piece of software I have ever written. Between the code itself and the fact that my storyboard had just about every single view and button for the whole app crammed onto one screen where I would hide and show individual views to simulate changing pages because I didn't even know what view controllers were. And instead of taking 5 minutes to look it up and save myself the pain of dealing with this is how I built the entire app. I actually tried refactoring the code multiple times in the years that followed, and I gave up every time because honestly, I probably would have been better off starting from scratch with a new project than trying to untangle that mess. But when it came to my freshman year of college, when I had only taken 1 semester of classes and I had never had a job, that app and 2 other simple iOS apps that I made after it were the only thing that I had going for me. Regardless of how basic those apps were, I had actually built some personal projects and shipped them, and that also meant that anyone who was interviewing me could see that they were real and not just resume fluff. And I say all this because the company where I ultimately landed my first internship actually did go and look at those apps. It didn't really matter that they were simple. They were looking for someone to build them a mobile app, and regardless of my overall lack of experience, I was someone who had built and shipped mobile apps before, which is something that most other candidates could not say they had done. Especially in the context of an internship where you have a really short amount of time to ramp up and then only 12 weeks to do meaningful work. Having that previous experience was a huge factor in getting me the job. I didn't need to take time to learn the ropes of mobile development, and I could hit the ground running right away. And I wasn't even using the same tech stack. I had only ever used Objective-C and Xcode, and now I was using C# and Xamarin, and I was also building an Android app at the same time. But if I hadn't made that first iOS app, regardless of how bad it was, I'm not sure I would have even gotten the interview for that job, and if I had gotten an interview, there's not really a whole lot I could have pointed to on my resume as to why I was a good fit or why I deserved that job. All this to say, if you're in college or you're just trying to get into industry, build personal projects and publish them. Don't just hack something together and leave it on your desktop. Finish it and ship it. Especially before you have any experience, or even if you do have some work experience, having personal projects on your resume is a big green flag because it shows initiative and it also helps you build new skills and to sharpen your existing ones. So get out there, build some personal projects and ship them. And if you build anything interesting, feel free to share it with me. I would love to see it. Anyways, that's it. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next one.